welcome to another Matchday Launch Show here on the CHALL. Obviously, last night we came home after a 2-0 defeat, a shocking 2-0 defeat against Barrow. Barrow stay inside the top 3. Congratulations to them. They deserved it. I did predict they would finish mid-table, but it would be a very, very tight finish. I didn't think they'd be outside the playoffs by a lot. I think they would be up there this season. And for me personally, they proved it last night. They really did prove it last night. So, you know, it's one of those things. But from our point of view, it was not good enough. I had a Barrow fan message me on TikTok saying they expected more from us. I expected more from us after the shocking performance against Mansfield. And we didn't deliver. It's simple as that, we didn't deliver. And the reason why we didn't deliver is because of multiple things. Some players just weren't good enough. The tactics from the manager wasn't good enough. The work ethic wasn't good enough. It's like we were sitting on the back foot for most of that match. And it just seemed like Barrow had a lot more energy. And also individual mistakes. We spoke about it against Mansfield. Individual mistakes. And, you know, I'm going to touch on these individually. But just so many things need sorting out for Saturday against Swindon. First of all, I want to say massive respect to all the fans that travelled for that game. We got back at 1:15 in the morning. I was on the coach that got back at 1:15 in the morning. We set off from the stadium in the afternoon at 2 o'clock, around 2 o'clock, to get down to Barrow, with a half an hour stop in between. And if the players are watching this, I hope you are watching this, and I'm sure you probably agree. Do you think that performance is acceptable for the journey that we made? For the journey that we did yesterday into last night? The journey that we went through? 4 hours there and back at 1:15 in the morning. And you think that performance is acceptable? No, it isn't acceptable. No, it isn't bloody acceptable. It's a shambles of a performance. And again, it falls down to multiple things. Individual errors. Passing the ball sideways, back. No one helping players. There was loads of incidents where players had about 2 men on them. They're looking for passing options, front and side. And there is barely anyone helping them, barely anyone making runs, and they have to force it back into the keeper, or they give the ball away either by accident or by a really rubbish pass. Just these individual mistakes, team cohesion, helping your teammates, helping your team work through the match. Any of those things are not acceptable. Am I expecting us to beat every single team in this league? No, I'm not. But that still doesn't give us a goddamn right to perform the way we did. All of us backed the team for 90 minutes. But they should have repaid us with at least a decent performance. If they lost, but for 90 minutes they were on it, they tried their best, they put Barrow under some pressure, they tried some shots, Barrow made some good saves, and they were just defensively better, then you could come away from that game and say, you know what, we didn't win the game, we didn't even get a point from the game, but you know what, we played well, we looked like a team that was working, we looked like we rectified the mistakes from Mansfield 10, 11 days ago, and we can come away with that game smiling, we feel fine, we just have to work on that clinicalness a bit and move on to the next one on Saturday. But we didn't even do that. Barrow had 38% possession, and we had what? 1 shot to their 22. And it was a Tommy Rose shot that was saved in the first half. That was it. The only shot we had. That's not what we signed up for. That's not the tactics that we saw in at least half of the league games before that this season. You know, against Northampton, against Stockport, for most of that game against Salford, or some of that game against Salford. That wasn't what we saw. The fans said it. The fans said it on the way back. You know, pre-season and some of the games before these past couple of games, we were like, yeah, decent football. You know, we're playing it around a bit. We're playing along the ground. We're playing some good stuff. You know, and, you know, yes, we've had to snatch some late goals on every occasion. And yes, that has got us out of jail. I think our luck has finally run out. But, you know, you could see something with the team. You could see something click. On the couple of occasions where we've had to snatch goals, I mean, let's face it, Sutton United, that was, you know, second half was pretty much theirs. And then we, you know, got it back and got the goals back. We got out of jail on that one. Bradford, we got a point out of that one when we were really under the weather, really under pressure. It was all about game management in that one. We got a point out of that one on the opening day. Mansfield was poor, too many long balls. The thing about Barrow is, we played probably less long balls than they did, and yet we still played poor. The problem with us was, we made too many individual mistakes, and yes, we still made a load of long balls. Not as many as Mansfield, but we still made a load of long balls. We still tried pumping it up aerially with no one winning in the air. It is literally like you are throwing an American football to a water polo player. It's like, it's not, nothing seems to be reaching. Nothing seems to be clicking at the minute. And like I said, and again, I'll reference this again. A fan said it on the way back home. The players get told the style the manager wants to play. If that's the style, we've seen that style for the past couple of games now. If we see that style for the next few games, and we barely win the next 5 games, we have to question Gary McSheffrey. The reason why I'm not questioning him as much now is because it's only 2 defeats. Bigger picture is we still had a decent start overall. We're still in the top 7. We're still in a decent position. But if we go the next few games barely winning any of them, losing pretty much all of them, and we plummet down the league table, then I'm going to start questioning Gary McSheffrey. No, to be fair, not even start. I think that's when I'll really start ramping up the questions for Gary McSheffrey about what the hell's going on. So, for me personally, like I said, I'm not going to use Barrow as a write-off like Mansfield was. I wrote off Mansfield saying, you know what, look on it as a minor blip, we move on. I'm looking at this one as like, right, something clearly isn't working. And I can pinpoint a couple of things here, and a few things. First of all, why the hell is James Maxwell not starting? If it's fitness, fair enough. You don't want to risk it, that's fair enough. But we saw in that Barrow game the worst of Tommy Rowe at left back. Yes, he's played there. Yes, he's played at left wing back at Bristol City, etc. But in my opinion, he is not a left back. He is not a left back. Why would we keep playing him there? And if I see him start at left back on Saturday, I'm going to start asking serious questions of why Maxwell's not starting. Because he came on in the Papa Johns, did all right. You know, under the circumstance with the second string team, he did all right. Why the hell is Maxwell not playing in the left back position? Why is Rowe not in the midfield with Harrison Biggins? And why isn't Biggins, in my opinion, on the bench? Again, the midfield overrun, especially in the second half from Barrow. Overall, like I said, first 10-15 minutes, we were playing the ball about, sideways, etc. It wasn't pretty to watch, but we held to the ball. You know, we looked like we were playing it around a bit. But then gradually, after those first 15 minutes, it went down and down and down and down. It's like taking a staircase to the journey of the centre of the earth. You keep going down, and you're going to keep going down. You know, it's like that player that fell over in the Europa League when he was trying to go over 2 bits of stands to celebrate with the fans after a goal. Or is he Europa Conference League? One of the two. You know, he goes over one. We've got out of first 15 minutes. Up and then down. Straight down into the pits of Hades. But in all seriousness, it just went downhill after those first 15 minutes. And the second half was all Barrows. We barely had a sniff in that second half. It was all Barrow. And like I said, a Barrow fan told me they expected more from us. And I expected more from us. I expected the response. Now, after the match, Gary McSheffrey went ahead and singled out George Miller. Why the hell did he do that? Yes, George Miller wasn't amazing, but what has he got to feed off? He's feeding off scraps. It's like going to a chippy, they're asking you what you want, and he says, I ain't got any money, can I just have a bag of scraps, please? And he said, oh, and then they're like, no, you still have to pay for scraps. You just go behind the back of the store and get what you can out of the dustbins. George Miller's feeding off scraps at the minute. When Max Waltman came on, he was given barely any service. He tried his best, he ran around. Same with George Miller. But again, both him and Max are feeding off scraps. Kieran Agard came on, didn't make an impact. Why? Feeding off scraps. The service has to be so much better. Carl Hurst, I praised him in previous games, but today it felt like it was a bit off the pace today. I don't know what it was, but it felt like a bit off the pace today. Best player for me in that game was Mitchell. And it's weird saying that after conceding 2 goals. And, you know, one of them, I think the first goal was like just... I watched back over the goals. The first goal looked like it slipped through his glove a little bit on the way in. The second goal was through his legs. You know, it's weird saying he's man of the match after all that. But to be honest with you, Jonathan Mitchell's the only reason why it wasn't 5 or 6. That's the only reason. If it wasn't for Jonathan Mitchell, it'd be 5 or 6-0, let alone 2. And there'd be plenty more people saying same stuff, different season, same stuff, different season. If it wasn't for him, it'd be 6. Simple as, end of story. So Mitchell, for me, is man of the match by an absolute mile. Because at least he kept it somewhat representable. At least he kept that scoreline somewhat respectable. Representable and respectable, or respectfully represented. It's... You could say it any which way you want, but Mitchell's the only reason why it wasn't 5 or 6. Especially in that second half. Because Barrow was all over us in that second half. It felt like watching a game of one team versus ghosts. It felt like watching Casper the Ghost teaming up with the Ghost from Ghostbusters against a team of against a team of Ronaldos. It was so bad to watch in that second half because we barely got a sniff. Like I said, it was like watching a bunch of all-stars against 2 ghosts. Non-existent. Absolutely non-existent. Every time we get the ball, we gave it away so easily. And that's one thing we need to work on, especially against a team like Swindon, who, let's be brutally honest, there has been concerns about their manager, Scott Lindsay. However, they won last night, 3-2 against a Sutton United team who always seem to battle in their games. They got their 3 points. They're coming into this game with some good form now. They're coming into this off the back of a win. We're coming off the back of this after 2 successive defeats and our first defeat on the road as well. Yes, we're back at home, but come on. We're coming off of a home defeat and an away defeat. Swindon's just coming off of a win on the at home. Let's see what they do away from home, but they're coming off a home win against Sutton United yesterday. And, you know, who's to say they won't win again? From what I saw against Barrow and Mansfield, who's to say they won't win again? But if I was the players, I'd be getting your heads off the floor, pull your finger out your backsides and work to earn your place in the team. Because if I was Gary McSheffrey, if you weren't performing for me 3 games in a row, I'd be bringing your backside off after 20 minutes, let alone 70 minutes. Biggin should have been brought off a lot sooner. Rowe in the midfield, Maxwell at left back, Biggins on the bench. That'd be one change. That's one change. One change. The second one, get Bobby Faulkner back in that flaming defence, will you? Because Adam Long was poor in that game. Absolutely poor. Absolutely poor. Long, for me, did not prove himself in that match. He deserves a rest on the bench after that game because he wasn't amazing in that game. He was poor. That left-hand side was exposed so much. So much. It's like someone coming in disguised as Whitney Houston or Beyonce or Rihanna, walk onto X Factor and your singing voice is rubbish, and they pull your disguise off and it turns out you're, you know, some 26-year-old worker at the back end of Asda in Salisbury. You know, they expose you so bad. that left-hand side was exposed as bad as that. It was so bad to watch, especially down that left-hand side. The right-hand side, Noyle kept it somewhat decent, but still, there were still times when they gave the ball away way too often in that right-hand side and in the centre as well. But mainly the left-hand side was exposed so much by Barrow. And this is the thing I said in the first half. You'll have noticed it on the vlog talking to someone as well. Especially in the first half, the 4-2-3-1. It felt quite narrow. It felt like the wingers and the fullbacks were nowhere near as expansive enough on those wide fronts. And Barrow just had all the space in the flaming world on those wide fronts. And they were just utilising the wing play every single time. Pumping it onto the wings every single time. And we were too narrow to deal with it. And they were having to track. And that allows crosses in the box. It allows chances to come through, cut inside, put it in the middle, work it in the box. Everything was being worked from the wing play to the centre or wing play into the final third in the box. And because the wing play is so narrow from us and so expanded by Barrow, we could not deal with them. We could not deal with them. And they deserved the win. Like I said at the beginning of the show. Do I think Barrow will be around those spots? I believe they could be. I believe they could be. The reason why I predict them mid-table is because the league's so tight, they could literally be outside the playoffs by 2 points and finish mid-table. It is literally that tight of a league this year. So, Barrow, for me, could still make it. They could still be in that playoff race. Even if they finish mid-table, they could still finish 2 points out the playoffs. Even that's a very successful season for Barrow. Even that's a successful season. Because they will have achieved a decent finish and not being too long away from the playoffs. So, Barrow could literally finish anywhere between the playoffs and mid-table, but only be a couple of points outside the playoffs in mid-table because the league is so tight. Barrow are in for a good season this year. I can just feel it from them. Pete Wild's an excellent manager. I said it on the shows multiple times. He is my first choice as manager when Wellens got sacked. I said it in the videos, I'll say it again. My first choice when Wellens got sacked was Pete Wild when he was at Halifax and he was working wonders with that club. There are other options in terms of non-league managers that I could have chosen at the time that would have been real breakthrough managers. Luke Gerrard at Boreham Wood was one of them. But I chose Pete Wild at the time because he was the one. He was the one that I think we could build a project around. But we got Gary McSheffrey. We'll see how he does. Last couple of games hasn't been amazing. It's been poor. Let's see how the players react because McSheffrey's come out in the press after the game and said they're not shirking responsibility anymore. No mopers, no shirkers of responsibility. He wants people. He was very angry and he wants people that are going to earn that shirt now. But he's coming out and saying all this. He doesn't want any more mopers, doesn't want any more shirkers of responsibility. He wants every player to go out there and demand a response at the weekend. If the players don't give him that response at the weekend, yes, it's down to the players for the performance. But if the players aren't doing what you said this weekend against Swindon and demanding a response, that also falls down on McSheffrey's shoulders because if he's demanding a response and the players don't give him it, it's down to the players for the performance, but it's down to the manager for not being listened to. You know, if he demands a response at the weekend and the players don't give him a performance, it's down to the players, but it's also down to the manager because it would feel like, from a fan point of view, it would feel like he's starting to lose the dressing room. And it's weird saying that with only 2 losses in 8 games. But if he demands a response at the weekend and they don't give him a response at the weekend, yes, it's down to the players for the performance, but it's also down to the manager because clearly it sounds like he's losing the dressing room if they're not giving him the demanding response that he's demanding himself. If they're not listening to him and giving him a demanding response, he's losing the dressing room or starting to lose the dressing room. And that could prove really toxic signs long term. So let's give you my player ratings. We'll also give you our ratings for Gary McSheffrey and the fans. Spoiler alert, the fans get the best rating today. So let's get the player ratings up. You can see it on your screen anyway as well. Mitchell 6, again I'll say it, man of the match, kept it respectable. Could have been 6 without Mitchell's saves, to be honest. So Mitchell for me 6. The whole back line, Rowe, Long, Williams, Noyle gets 5s. And I might be brutally honest here, but I think for Tommy Rowe and Adam Long, a 5 is actually generous. I was probably gonna give Tommy Rowe and Adam Long 4s, to be honest. And it's weird saying that about Tommy Rowe, and to be honest with you, with Adam Long, it feels guilty saying that because he is a new signing after all. But it's my opinion. I've got to be brutally honest here. But I'm going to give them low 5s. Williams, mid 5. Noyle, probably a slightly higher 5 than mid 5. I think Noyle's had the highest of the 5s in the defence. So Noyle for me was the best out of the defence. Williams second, and maybe Long and Rowe joint third, should we say. Biggins and Clayton in the midfield, 5 as well. Again, the midfield battle was just completely outrunning that second half. Biggins for me just needs to... And the reason why I said drop Biggins to the bench, and the reason why I say this, is because with his work rate, you could use that work rate when he's got fresh legs in that last 25-30 minutes. Add that bit of fresh legs, add that bit of fresh box-to-box legs in that midfield for the last half an hour of a match. When the opposition defence starts to tire, then you've got, you know, the opportunity to run that defence ragged again. And the thing about having Rowe in the midfield rather than Biggins and have Maxwell at left back is, first of all, Maxwell's a good player. I don't know why he's been dropped. And then obviously having Rowe in that midfield adds that creative spark in the middle alongside Clayton. Clayton marshals the play. Rowe does the playmaking from the deep. And then you have your centre attacking midfield playing it around, having a shot, playing it to the wings, playing it up front, creating the play from the final third. So it's not rocket science. For me, it needs to be 4-3-3. The 4-2-3-1 narrow does not work. It feels like it doesn't work. We saw that against Barrow. So we need to be playing 4-3-3. It can't be 4-2-3-1 for me. It needs to be 4-3-3. It needs to be Rowan Clayton with Tomlin in front, and then the wingers pushing further forward and further wide to make it more expansive. And same with the fullbacks as well. So, you know, that's the advantages of that. Again, like I said, the midfield probably 5. If I was to choose a better midfielder, probably Clayton. Hurst, Tomlin and Molyneux as the sort of attacking 3 behind the striker. All get 5s as well. I think Molyneux is probably the best out of the 3. Hurst, little off the pace compared to usual. Tomlin, again, very 50-50 for me. And then Miller, 5. Again, like I said, feeding off scraps, but at least he was trying. Substitutes then, Max Waltman, John Taylor and Kieran Agar. Waltman and Agar get 5s because they felt like they were feeding off scraps. At least Waltman was trying as well. And John Taylor gets a 6, and the only reason for that is because of one decent cross that could have fessed a chance. Gary McSheffrey, 5, and that's being generous, to be honest. I would have given him a 4, but I'm going to give him a 5 on this one. And the reason why I'm giving him a 5 is because the changes should have been made a lot sooner. The tactics weren't working, and we didn't really change the tactics. We felt like we were just doing the same thing over and over again. And he has to learn from it. As a sort of new manager in his first full year in senior management, he has to learn from it. And finally, the fans. The fans get a 10, and the reason why the fans get a 10 is because we travelled all that way to watch that piece of you-know-what. So, what do we do next against Swindon? I'll tell you what we do. We demand a response. The manager demands a response, the players don't give it, the manager's starting to lose the dressing room, and the players obviously have to take responsibility as well. So it's going to be interesting, but I will give you that preview show on the Friday, so stay tuned for that. And for now, guys, that is another Matchday Launch Show. I hope you do like the new style of the Matchday Launch Shows with the reviews and the previews separate. Hope you do appreciate that. And I am the CHALL, your YouTube sporting journalist and your Doncaster Rovers fan. Please do go watch the vlog if you haven't already. Please do go watch the fan cams if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next video very, very soon. That is full time.